Good afternoon. This is our GLI again. As mentioned already yesterday, where we worked out the differences between licensing and our product certification. We actually just wanted to have a short and small workshop about our submission requirements, how to prepare for a product submission. It actually is also will explain, or Stella is from our game math department and compliance department, now specialist for compliance. She also will explain what is required to submit a game, what is a par sheet, what our game math should be prepared to have a good review of the game and a fast review. Marco was already doing a presentation and session for cybersecurity. He's actually the CEO of our Bulletproof. Bulletproof is the, sorry? MD, Managing Director, sorry, of Bulletproof. That doesn't make it better, actually. You're still responsible. And actually has a lot of experience as well from cybersecurity perspective. He will also explain what is required for a submission to meet with 27001 requirements, for example, and penetration testing, vulnerability testing. And yeah, I'm happy to support with our math if required. You can use this. I think they're all on.
It's working? Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Hello, everyone. So yeah, for the submissions materials, like for a game, how it works at the beginning, like of course, there's a call with the clients. There's going to be like a description of the product that we have. First of all, like most of the submissions, there's like about games. So we would require like to see the par sheets. What are the par sheets? The par sheets is like depends what you like from client to client, and it's mostly like the pays, how the game works, the game description is being used both from the testing teams that we have. One is the engineering team, the other one is the math team. Math is more responsible for the RTP and the statistical analysis of the games. So they heavily their testing includes the par sheets, and engineering, of course, is more like about the source code and the submission materials, how the game works, the functionality of the games. So we get the par sheets, we have the product description, then we do like a supervised build. We're actually like with a client in a call. We'll actually just have like the source code. We get the binaries and the build log in order to see that to check the game, and also like we require like a testing like an access to a testing environment to test the game and just like be able to emulate the results and evaluate the functionality of the game. The testing, like the math testing and the engineering testing, they take place at the same time. So both departments work together, and we also like have the checklist that we have like for each jurisdiction. We do the required functional tests. If there are any issues, we raise them to the client, and then we have another supervised build if there are any issues that actually they're affecting our testing, and hopefully at the end you end up with a certificate and an approval.
So the important point is also to submit the par sheet, but actually reflects the math model behind the game and the source code, and of course we also perform then and check the implementation of the math model into the code.
Yeah, of course we need to verify that actually what is being described in the par sheets is the same as the source code. Of course, we do like a functional testing for more products. There's the platform, and depending on the product that we have, there is more maybe additional documentation that we may require. We may require the architecture schema because we need to see how the platform or any other component is connected. There's also like integration testing, where actually it's more about B2C, where actually we test the platform with the games and the RNGs. And speaking of RNGs, is the random number generator. The submission materials are similar, so we would like, instead of having an emulation tool, for example, we require, of course, like the source code and the description, because for the RNGs, we also need to know in what games they're going to be used, or if they're going to use like in a jackpot. We would like also, like we have like a data collection tool where actually we just get all the information, like the data in order to perform the statistical analysis. And that's in a nutshell, like most of the products that, like what the submission materials that we require for most of the products that we evaluate in GLA.
Also, actually, most of the jurisdictions, I guess, are basically such requirements you also need to submit to any lab. Actually,
yes,
we all cook with water, as we say, and also to meet, for example, GLI 19 for online gaming or GLI 33 for our sports wagering systems or requirements. Yeah, and most of the jurisdictions actually require identical submission requirements for the testings.
Yes. That's very true, and that's why there is the submission process is pretty much streamlined, regardless of the jurisdiction that you are submitting to. Of course, some jurisdictions they maybe require a little bit some additional critical files, and we need to check for that jurisdiction. Some jurisdictions, for example, it's not necessary to perform like integration testing for the operators. But some jurisdictions they have it like as compulsory, or some jurisdictions for example, they want to have like an RGS certification, which actually this is mostly like for US, but for Europe we just it's only Greece, for example, that requires the RGS testing, so the remote gaming server. So yeah, first the main difference between jurisdictions is like which products you need to certify and to approve in order to be able to operate or to be a supplier.
So actually, the better the source code is documented, the better the par sheets are prepared, or
yes,
the smoother the process as well are in the lab, and of course the better also the R&D team is prepared to perform a supervised build together with the lab. The easier the job for the lab, and the faster the project is through the lab.
Exactly.
Marco, from our IT security perspective, our internet security services, what should be provided by the submitting party?
I think, Alex, first, just a few remarks from my side, general remarks, right? So why did we choose this topic, right? We could pick any topic, right? Exactly. Right. Why did we choose this? Well, the idea is that submission is a very critical step of the certification. If the submission is wrong, we cannot start with the certification process, right? So we want to make sure during this panel to express the importance and what is needed, so that the certification process starts in a smooth way and progress in a smooth way. It's so common, and more common than a lot of people might think, that the material that is provided at the very beginning is not correct, is insufficient, or organization might take very long time to put all that material together. It's not uncommon that they don't even have par sheet, right? So that's the main reason, and that's very general, whether we are talking about product submission or for functional testing or for security. Yeah, so just wanted to make this point. Otherwise I think we missed a little bit to connect the dots, right? Now, when it comes to the security certification part, mainly we can split the submission according to the type of service that is required. Typically, all the jurisdiction they would need an audit to certify the information management system and the penetration test. The submission is different and the implication is different. If a submission for an audit is not correct, well, it's going to delay the process, but eventually, we can work together to put things back in track. If the submission for a penetration test is wrong, my guys, my hackers might end up in jail. So that's a very big difference, right? The reason is that submission for audit require mainly to agree, time frame where the audit is conducted, the location, a deadline. We need to agree an audit plan. An audit plan is a formal document where we write down what are the requirements scope, what department and roles we're going to interview, and mainly this document is also signed off by our clients because we want to make sure that they are fully aware the way the audit is conducted and there's no surprises, right? Eventually we undertake our testing, we issue report of findings, risk rated, and that's pretty much it. So as you understand, worst things, we book a flight that we are not going to use, but nothing major. Now, when it comes to penetration test, it's very different because the main document of the submission is called authorization form. The authorization form is different than a contract, than a statement of work, because the authorization form enables us legally to undertake an intrusion testing on a specific infrastructure. Unless that document is present, as a lab, we are performing unlawful activity, and we might, be prosecuted for that, right? So the very first thing when we undertake penetration tests, we need to have an agreement when this test is going to be done. The exact list of IPs that we are going to attack, the exact list of URL that we are going to attack. We need to have an escalation point from our client side, because if we see something that is not correct, something, for example, the network becomes unstable, right? We have to immediately stop testing, escalate to the organization. Obviously, this authorization form needs to include also exclusion, so specific targets that you don't want us to touch, as well as has to be signed, formally signed, by our clients. On top of that, also we include our own IP to be whitelisted. So in that way, testing is smoother. We don't need to repeat it if there is, because we are going to eliminate any interference or any block from our client side. So again, for the penetration test, main document, the authorization form, and then after we undertake our testing, also in that case, there is a report on findings that risk rated. Yes, please.
So the list of attacks is declared, so a customer knows what will receive, right? In terms of penetration testing.
Yes.
So they know the list of type of attack.
Yes, of course, yes. Specifically, we list hours, injection, or when we do the network part, the exact step that we undertake. Again, we do it in full transparency. We also invite our clients to monitor our attack and understand if they're able to detect it, right? So they can get more value from it. We typically agree with the client the type of scenario that they want to undertake. So, for example, I'll give you an example. I would normally ask my client to whitelist my IP so that we don't get interference. But my client might say, hey, but I want to make sure that my IPS is working fine. Okay, then don't whitelist us, right? And most likely, if your IPS is working fine, we're not going to find any findings, right? Now, we can debate whether that's sufficient for regulatory purpose or not, but there's no chance we're not going to find any finding, because even if you have an IPS, we find a way, right? So eventually, we can give you the assurance that your IPS is working fairly fine, but also we can give the assurance to the regulator that we have been able to assess your entire network despite, the presence of an intrusion prevention system or detection system. A couple of things also I want to clarify, since we are talking about submission. Do B2B need to undergo submission as they are, behind the B2C? The concept is a little bit general, and sometimes it's a little bit gray within regulation. There's only a bunch of regulation out there that requires specific licensing for B2B, right? The critical point is that all regulation requires that public interfaces that process, store, or transmit sensitive information And that's normally financial data, registration data, or gameplay data must undergo penetration test.
Actually, everything that is linked and connected to operate
Correct.
needs to be undergo through the
That's
testing.
correct.
Yeah,
So
doesn't matter who is involved and
no,
who is the
so
party
even though it's
behind.
might not be specifically indicated in the regulation intention and what they're asking there is that the entire solution undergo a penetration test. So if the solution is made by the B2B platform and the B2C platform, that as an entire solution should be assessed. That's a first clarification. Second clarification is when we undergo testing, do we need to freeze the environment? Well, it's not something that we demand, but we need to be informed if there's any specific change happening when we undertake testing for the reason that it might invalidate what we're doing, right? So we have to do it in agreement. We are not going to stop you to do your job, basically, but please let us know. I think another relevant point also, whether testing should be undertaken in a production environment or stage environment. It's a very typical question that we receive, right? We can accommodate both options with some limitation. Typically, the network itself is better to be tested in production. The reason is that it's very unlikely that the stage environment under the networking point of view is an exact clone of the production. So if we do that testing staging, we're going to risk not to test the actual network configuration that is going to be in production. On top of that, normally testing on staging ended up to identify a lot of false positives, things like self-size certificate or other specific configuration that are not ideal for production but acceptable in a stage environment in order to be cost effective. I would say that when it comes to the application itself, the actual feedback that we can get from testing and staging is pretty much the same that we will get in testing production. The application is the same, slightly different configuration, but it's the same, and the risk is a lot less, right? So our recommendation is always network in production, unless it's a clone, unless the stage environment is a clone, and application we can definitely do it in the stage environment and give you, a great feedback as well.
Maybe also to explain, and I think this comparison is quite good, having this from the gaming lab and Internet Security Lab, why we are so picky, all labs are so picky with our submission requirements and documentation and preparation for the submission, because actually each lab is also ISO certified and has to follow ISO criteria and routines and methods. So actually also the submission process is already part of the methods that are audited by the individual accreditation bodies. So it's part of the package, part of the methods based on what every lab is performing the work. And so actually this is why we are so picky and you might feel it like a torture sometimes. It's also for us at every audit, exactly. Also for the licenses, we need to follow these methods and procedures, and that's why it's important for. I also like to refer the G-Live website refers also to a document, Composite Submission Requirements. Honestly, I don't know how much they cover or how much this document also covers ISS criteria, but I know it's quite comprehensive about our online and even land-based product submissions. We have also colleagues here from our sales department. They're always happy to pick up your questions and also refer you and guide you to this document, and also always to connect you with the technical team, also the compliance team, also with our Bulletproof technical experts to find out if you're best prepared, because it's actually in our interest that you feel fine and happy and you are best prepared for a project. Because it somehow it delays the project, it makes it more expensive, the more questions during the submission process already pop up, And I always call this actually bad revenue because it's just created by frustration. It comes from frustration and not because you see already any results. Yeah, and the win or the margin you make out of this revenue, you have to reinvest into good dinners and drinks at bars for the client again to make him happy again. So, but the delay and the time you cannot catch up anymore. And this is actually where we try to explain you what is important to be best prepared for the labs. Stella, anything from you to be added? Marco? Then thank you very much for your time. Sorry. Questions?
Yeah, some questions here. We are within the gambling business, but I think everybody is aware that the emails and bank accounts and banks recently are attacked more and more. My question is like cybersecurity. Do you offer services only for gambling companies like B2C, B2B, or you can offer also generally?
You have personal concerns?
No, we cover many verticals and industry, healthcare, finances, universities, SLED, you name it. Yes.
I think actually the majority of your clients don't come from the gambling industry. Is this
In the EMEA area, yes.
Yeah, okay.
But especially on the American side, actually is opposite. The majority is outside gaming industry. Yes. But at least in the EMEA, we are highly specialized.
Because actually, Bulletproof, to add, I think it's headquartered in Canada. It's actually originally a Canadian company.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. We have the overhead in Haarlem, in the Netherlands, here in EMEA. Yeah.
And Bulletproof can also certify our clients for 27001.
Yes, we can provide 27001 certification. We can provide SOC 2. We can provide PCI certification as well. Yes.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you. A question about, if we look at the US attacks that occurred over there and how regulation is looking at it. Now, in New Jersey, which are the most, let's say, advanced in understanding those topics, they are looking at multi-factor authentication as a way to protect against this. Is this a trend that you see that you would recommend to regulators over the world to implement from your expertise?
Well, what I recognize in meetings and from with regulators and what we also see already in regulations and what I'm a little bit concerned about in context of cybersecurity are player identification requirements, where you actually have to provide quite a lot of personal information, our banking information and so on, even if they are linked to our deposit limits, for example, that you have to prove, or in terms of responsible gambling, possible responsible gambling requirements, that you can afford that limit and so on. So actually you provide the system already with a lot of personal information that of course goes along with necessary and applicable security. And to my experience, this is often overseen or not recognized. Yeah, that if you demand a lot of information on that end, this also needs more security on this end and overall. Yeah, it's a good point. The same are with safe vault server solutions and so on. What of course makes sense for the regulator, sorry, to get to relevant information. And financial data, event data, are also personal information of players, and then it's important that they're also protected and involved in relevant testing procedures and also cybersecurity aspects.
Should we be concerned or worried about the weak support of systems, centralized systems like UDAS and so on in terms of cybersecurity? Is this the next frontier of weakness in the industry? Because this is being
always actually, but I wouldn't call it now really concerned. Of course, the suppliers are also high professionals actually, so it's also in their interest, of course, that the product is secure. Nevertheless, I think there's space for improvement. I would rather call it to create more a higher level of awareness, because we don't know what our future developments, our future plans, and so on and product ideas will bring, and what risks they will bring with them. Yes, when we create a higher level of awareness, what does it entirely mean for the online world, or even land-based world already? Look at our recent hack in the Las Vegas land-based casinos, big brands, and they just came in over the loyalty program of the hotel reservation room and stuff like that. Yeah, so you often recognize the situation that the entire picture is not considered, and not all components have been added to not all pieces of the puzzle to make the picture clear, and what you have to actually think over also as a regulator. Yeah, of course.
I think to your point and Alex's point, authentication mechanism has to be proportional to the sensitivity of the information that you are trying to protect, right? And we all aware that on gambling website, they are basically banking website, right? And even more, there's a lot of personal details, there's a gambling habit, and you don't want to risk to expose those data, right? Now, so in principle, I'm very favorable for a multi-factor authentication. In many cases, though, those technical solutions, they give a false sense of security. In the sense, what I mean is that there's not a single solution that is going to enhance your security to a level, that you can forget about it. It's always a combination of solution, and in general, the weakest link in organization are people, are not technical system, right? So you might have an amazing multi-factor authentication, but the person that is using has no idea about InfoSec, haven't been trained, haven't got any authentication, any awareness training, and that means he's not going to be able to use that tool in an efficient way, right? So going down to New Jersey, you said New Jersey is state of the art, pretty much. Technical aspect, yes, but the New Jersey regulation, for example, doesn't require an information management system audit, so it's completely overlooking the human component. Right? I would not recommend, New Jersey regulation as a benchmark in that sense, right? Yes, they recommend a very thorough penetration test, but that's really it. And can we say that a penetration test fulfill all the security needs of an organization? I think not even 5%, to be honest. Yeah.
Any more questions? Okay. Thank you very much.